Well, now this should be communicating with all of you. It's always a bit strange on lonesome episodes. Hello, everyone. I suppose I should be streaming, and you should be able to hear me. How's the audio? Welcome, one and all. Let me just use my sleeve to clear out this whiskey glass. Oh, there we are, lovely. And what's this? That's a nice bottle of Legic. Oh, lovely. And where are we? Let's have a look. Oh, that's a nice glass. That's lovely. Oh, cracking stuff. Oh, you know what? Let's go big face. Hello, everyone. Oh, what a week we've had. Awful week. Absolutely awful week. So shout out to the lovely Tobermory distillery. I paid for this. This is not free. I don't get goodies. Although Tobermory distillery, if you want to send me free whiskey, Dean and we quite like Legic, so that's very nice. And indeed, Slancher. It's going to be one of those, isn't it? Oh, that's very, very nice. It's very nice. It's not quite up there with Ardbeg, but there's a lot going on. Anyway, this is not Whiskey Natter. This is Rail Natter, and it's going to be a long one. And I want it to be chatty. I want there to be lots of discussion. Welcome to new people who have joined for the stream. Let's get back to it because we're gonna hopefully have lots of questions, but I also have some slides to get through. And I don't want to just do the whole thing of slides. I want it to be lots of discussion and questions. Remember to at me in if you have questions. Don't at me in if it's just chatter. At me in so that my name appears in red if you've got a question, because then I can scroll back and forth and pick up those questions. Thanks, everyone. Oh, someone else was asking about paid chat. No, the chat will never have paid features, or at least not. I don't want it to at the moment, because I want everyone to have equal access into that, whether you're Patreon, use the Discord or whatever, or just coming in for the first time. I want everyone to have equal access to that. I don't want people to prioritise their messages. So, not for now, anyway. Right, back to No Face. So, we're talking about why the eastern leg of HS2 is its most important section. Why are we talking about this? We'll get there, but it felt topical. So, first of all, let's go on with the COVID stats. For anyone who's new, one of the things we do on Rail Natter is that we've been looking at the COVID statistics. Keeping up to date with the changing trends. So, the usual, we've got this red line here is all road vehicles. We've got cycling up here, and we've got buses in pink and National Rail Services in blue. Now, over the last, we've generally seen a sustained increase, and there's been some slowdowns recently, but certainly, if we look at rail, there's been a sustained increase. And actually, if we zoom in to the last year, so this is starting back in January 2021, and if you look at the trace, actually it continues to be an upward trend. I was a little bit worried over the last couple of months because it appeared to be slowing down, but it seems to have rocketed right back up again. So we're up nearly to actually between 75 and 80% at the moment, so it's still climbing. I thought it would have topped out by this point, but we're still basically above where we were supposed to be by the end of the year. We've reached that 75% mark, and we need to just sort of stay above it, ideally, without any, if there are no lockdowns. And indeed, in December, we might see some changes as well, because in December, there'll be the timetable update, which should set everything back to the non... in some cases, as you'll see an episode or two ago, 2 or 3 episodes ago, actually, we went through some of the data about how many services are running at the moment. And we showed that in some instances, between 60 and 70, train operators are only running between 60 and 70% of the pre-COVID timetable. So, you can't, given that the growth is all long distance at the moment, those were long distance operators, so there's a limitation on growth, which I think we've been reaching. But, we're still growing, so we'll keep our eyes on this. In fact, Paul, hi Paul Prentice, lovely to see you on here. You've retracted your own message, but it'd be interesting to see, it'd be interesting what your perspective is, given that... Or maybe I shouldn't tell everyone what you're doing. But anyway, Paul, if you've got any insights, do share them in the chat about what you've perhaps seen on, given that you're the train operator you affiliate with kind of does a bit of both. It does a bit of both long distance and more regional and indeed local and suburban stuff, and heavy commuter stuff as well. So that's the stats. Any questions on that? Do chuck them over here. Hello to everyone. Yeah, lots of comments already. Yes, whiskey and indeed some of the things. Can we have a risky rail natter? Yeah, a whiskey-themed rail natter would be great, wouldn't it? Right, let's start with the news. The news. Here is the only piece of good news that I could think of, which is that Oakhampton Station has reopened, or rather, it's having mainline services running. It's not. I don't believe it actually ever closed, but it's got mainline services running back to it again. And although Tim commented on this and said, "Oh look, it's Rail Alphabet 2." I don't think that is Rail Alphabet 2. I think that's the old Rail Alphabet. It looks to me it's too heavy a weight, so I think this is the old Rail Alphabet. And the fact that it's got the GWR branding suggests to me that this is very much the old style of kind of station signage. This is not the new regime. So anyway, yes. Josephine is going on the inaugural journey on Saturday. Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, this is definitely Rail Alphabet 1. I don't think it is RA2. Sorry, Tim. I think someone's sold you a duffer on that, but it's too heavy for RA2. Anyway, it looks very nice. It's going to be an unstaffed station. They're running R152. I don't know how frequently. At least, there will be rail services there. But reality is that should be on a mainline station as a diversion route, but that's one for another rail natter, isn't it? So, right. Deep breath for this. What are we doing next? Right, we're going to have to talk about COP26, aren't we? Okay. Going to have another sip of whiskey. Oh, Paul Prentice is saying leisure travel almost back to normal, commuting and business less so. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Lovely. Gregor McCabery is saying, I see ScotRail Inter-7 City services will not return to full service until May next year. Crikey. Yeah, good grief. A bit of a rail natter meetup. Some other people are on that service as well. Michael C is going to be there. Nice one. Dave is saying, saw East West Rail saved 70 million using a new bridge technique. Could electrification of that route cost that much? I use that saving. Yeah, electrification of that route will cost about 100 million. So, but no, that's not how it works. You don't. That money's disappeared into the ether now that they've saved it. There's all sorts of good chat in there, but let's talk COP26. Cars, planes, and magic. That was the theme from COP26, certainly when it came to transport. I was disappointed as it was happening, and I've been even more disappointed now that it's concluded. This is all that came out of COP26 as a result of transport. It's this daft declaration. COP26 declaration on accelerating the transition to 100% zero-emission cars and vans. That was it. Nothing on modal shift. Nothing on, altering road priority, or nothing on transport hierarchy. Just this big old lump of text here. This is the whole thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but suffice to say, there's a lot of text here, and all of it is dedicated to cars. All to cars and vans and HGVs. All about road stuff. And I'll point out, this was added by one particular delegate from the EU who pointed out what the smeg, and added in this paragraph, which is, we recognise that alongside the shift to zero-emission vehicles, a sustainable future for road transport will require wider system transformation, including support for active travel, public and shared transport, as well as addressing the full value chain impacts from vehicle production, use and disposal. It's like, yeah, man. Good grief. I mean, crikey. Absolutely staggering. Unbelievably staggering. Someone's trying to phone me, probably from a news channel. I'm not available, I'm afraid, everyone. I'm doing rail natter. Good grief. Anyway, so COP26, really, absolutely catastrophically dismal situation. And to be honest, it was the same across the board. COP26, it was watered down in terms of it's dealing with kind of key fossil fuels, particularly coal. So currently we are based on current policies situation from COP26, and the outcome is, and this is the most likely, so you've got your normal distributions here, whatever it looks to be. Oh no, maybe not a skewed distribution here. And it's looking at what the most likely temperature range is, and we're looking at over 2.5 degrees. Bearing in mind that 1.5 degrees means that society changes, 2 degrees is like serious impacts. 2.5 degrees. Good grief. So, really not good, folks. Really, really not good. Oh, and so related to this, and this is kind of a bit of a transition into the next news item. I didn't want to talk about it at the time because I didn't want to undermine the good work that's been done by all the folks involved in the Hydroflex train. Don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic bit of engineering. But It is absolutely not the world's first hydrogen train, which is what CBI tweets seem to be suggesting in one of their tweets. And indeed, this was not being played down by the people who knew better. It was being played up. Yes, it did start off as a student project in 2012. In what way does this show the power of government, given that it started in 2012? There are hydrogen trains running. The hydrogen trains were carrying passengers in Germany from 2016 onwards, and revenue service from 2018 onwards. It is not a world first. Stop saying that. Absolutely embarrassing. And the whole focus of COP26, when it did come to rail, there were 2 trains running around. One of them was a knackered old D train with a battery in it. Sorry, Viva Rail, I love you, and I have a lot of time for the work you do, but let's face it, that's what this is. It was a refurbished train with an old battery in it. And Hydroflex, which is another knackered old train, which didn't have any hydrogen in it because they weren't allowed, and was running under its pantograph the whole time, running on the actual decarbonised form of rail, which is standard electrification. And not a mention of actual electrification, or even, more importantly than electrification, as you know, electrification is not the most important thing about railways. It's the fact that railways, however they are powered, are absolutely critical to drive modal shift away from the roads. No mention of modal shift. It was just so embarrassing, so deeply problematic. Just so frustrating. So there's the Coradia Island, which that's an Alstom train, which has been running in passenger service since 2016 and in revenue service since 2018. And it's still hydrogen trains are not a thing in the UK. I wrote a piece about this. You're welcome to go and read my. I finally put it on Medium, so you can go and have a look at that if you're interested. And indeed, related to that, here's a very rationed pixels, folks. Use high media, folks. Use high resolution, please. Minimum 1080p. If you're doing a comms image, go high resolution, because this is rubbish. Anyway, if you remember a very early rail natter, we had Mike Muldoon on. A lot of time for Mike Muldoon, and indeed a lot of time for Alstom's work with hydrogen. Hydrogen is a part of the picture. It's a very small part, but it is an important part. So we need, and as I said in my piece on hydrogen, don't worry, we're getting on to HS2 soon, folks. Fear not. As I said in my piece on Medium on hydrogen that was in Rail Magazine, the problem is government is the same problem that's stopping them do electrification. They aren't interested in investing, so they're not going to buy these trains. They're just expecting them magically to appear somehow. Anyway, here is the proposed. I mean, it's not. I'm pointing out this isn't a proposed. This is just a memorandum of understanding, and a visualization. They're no nearer to creating these things. They're just showing kind of what they look like, which is interesting because they've moved away from the former train platform. They're now looking at just rolling it straight into a new Aventra. I don't know if that's to give more work to more running for the Aventra platform. But I'm disappointed in this for a variety of reasons. Most of them focused on this bit of the train, which is because this is an 1100mm floor height. There we are, my terrible wackaming. 1100mm floor height, which means this is not going to provide level boarding. We're baking in the same problems that the previous Aventras have caused. It's not a new platform, which is a nice lower platform at 900, 915. So this is not good. Stop using Aventra. Start developing a new platform, Alstom, please. This is, of course, Alstardier or Bombardier, Bombarstum, or whatever we're calling Alstom, having gobbled up Bombardier. But anyway, there it is. And also, we shouldn't be buying any more of these trains until Bombardier, what used to be Bombardier, work out how to do software, which they don't seem to be able to since the 2000s. Anyway, enough of that. Chaps, our Secretary of State for Transport's at it again. Here we are, the Transport Decarbonisation Plan, which I'm sure you all remember us going through in a previous rail natter. Ministers were attempting to minimise the chilling effect on road, and I quote, the chilling effect on road building. UK ministers allegedly sought advice on how to protect road building plans the day before the Transport Decarbonisation Plan was published. This does not surprise me, as you'll remember from that episode. So, and to summarise this, we've also got the fact that Insulate Britain have been prosecuted. Absolute solidarity to the 9 folks who've been jailed for peacefully protesting the fact the government isn't doing anything about the other really critical emission source in the UK, which is housing. And of course, let's just read Grand Chap's words here. He's every motorway and major A road in the country is now covered by injunctions preventing people from blocking the road. He's not saying anything about the fact that cars block pavements all the time or anything like that. Let's put that to one side. Or the fact that car congestion is the main problem on these roads. Anyone who causes misery to motorists may face prison. What? Misery to motorists. And then look at what he says here. I'll continue to do all I can to protect road users. Oh, tell me about it. All I can to protect road users and prevent dangerous disruptive behaviour. Well, apparently not. Firstly, remember that 25,000 people are killed or seriously injured on Britain's roads every year. It doesn't seem to be doing anything about that. And to summarise all of this behaviour, Yeah, pretty much exactly this. He is very much reinforcing, utterly reinforcing protection of road users. So disappointing. Does Oakhampton have level boarding? Unless they've got Stadlers, no, it won't. Basically, in the UK at the moment, if there aren't Stadlers, you don't have level boarding. That's the rule. So that's Shaps very much at it again. And indeed, here's a very nice first-class lounge, LNER, up in Edinburgh, I think this one is. Shout out to Gareth. Lovely work. This is really very nice first-class lounge. But unfortunately, because of this week, as you might have noticed, I've been ranting on the TV again because Shaps, protecting the motorist and doing Rishi Sunak's bidding has indeed expanded. And this is why we're going to talk about HS2's Eastern Leg tonight. So... oh, goodness. Good question, actually, from XX Rock Raider XX. Ask me that one again later on. And yes to all of the sentiments. So, let's get cracking with tonight's rail natter, shall we? And there it is. The lovely In-City 225 fading away. Oh, I got distracted midway through a gulp of whiskey. So let's come back to this tweet, which is the first thing I said at the start of this week, in amongst all the shenanigans. I just wanted people to remember, because as often as the discussion is generically is a load of people going, "Oh, the North," but actually, the North is going to be hugely hit by this, but not quite as much as invariably the East Midlands will be. And actually, the North relies on a hinge, a linchpin, if you like, a key fundamental component in the whole of High Speed 2, Western Leg, Eastern Leg, Phase 1, whatever, is actually the East Midlands Hub at Towton. Or rather, what I prefer to call the Towton Interchange, because it doesn't confuse people quite as much. This is the Towton Interchange between Derby and Nottingham. And we'll get back to this tweet momentarily, but... Let's get my face. Let's get my miniaturized face in the corner. Hello, I'm back, everyone, and I'm still drinking this delicious, absolutely delicious Legic. Lovely. I don't normally drink delicious whiskey on these, but I have a nasty suspicion I might end up drinking more over the next few episodes than I normally do. It's a very real danger. Oh, so right, let's do this thing, shall we? It was indeed. It's Good Morning Scotland, so that's nice. Right, we have an orange slate. What have we got? Yeah, right. So the whole structure I'm going to go for this episode is I'm going to look at all the stupid nomenclature that goes bouncing around. So hopefully this is going to be a useful guide for everyone, because we're going to talk about the silly nomenclature. Phase 2B. What the hell does this mean? Eastern Leg. East Midlands Hub, as I've discussed, kind of a bit of a nebulous and confusing name, not least the fact there's also the East Midlands Parkway. The Integrated Rail Plan, what even is that? Crossrail of the North, it's a stupid name, gets bounced around a lot, indeed was used by Keir Starmer today in Prime Minister's Questions. Northern Powerhouse Rail, arguably an even more stupid name that was coined by George Osborne. Very, very stupid name, totally meaningless and nebulous. And the Transpennine Route Upgrade, which is actually the most sensible of all the names for this, because it kind of does what it says on the tin, but it gets confused by people as to what this is referring to as well. And we're going to talk about all of this jargon, and indeed more if you chuck me any others. Yes, Gareth Williams, sorry, the buffer stop episode has indeed been shunted forwards by another couple of episodes because of events. Hashtag events have come upon us. So, all this nomenclature, we're going to cover it. We're going to try and talk about what it is. And through the lens of this garbage nomenclature and garbage jargon, we are going to hopefully explain why the eastern leg of HS2 is the most important part of the whole project. So, Gareth vocabulary, largely stupid. Yes, exactly, Josephine. Right, so we're going to start by talking about Phase 2B and, I didn't want to do that, and the Eastern Leg. So we've got Phase 2B and the Eastern Leg. These two things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about these, and let's bring up a map, a good old map. Aesthetically pleasing text layout. It is until you realise that I've got animations that are going to clash with each other. In fact, you know what? I can fix that. Watch this. I can fix something. Here we have a lovely map. You can see all the existing lines here. It's very nice, isn't it? Look at that. Lovely. And I'm going to... Wait a minute. None. Yeah, I'm doing some on the hoof editing. You'll be absolutely proud of me. None, and then also none. There we are. This is very good stuff. Right, so marvelous. Yeah, good. So, sorry about that. So here we have. Let's talk about HS2. So, I mean, hopefully everyone on here knows what HS2 is about, right? And maybe we'll explain it with the benefit of the map. So HS2 is being constructed in phases. This isn't the alignment, by the way. It's a slightly simplified version of the alignment, not entirely, but slightly simplified version. If you want the full maps, you can find them online quite easily. So phase 1 basically goes from London. Is from that there London they have from Euston, goes through another station here at Old Oak Common, actually, via another station here at Birmingham interchange. There we are. And then kind of goes into Birmingham. And actually, there's another bit here that connects up to there's a little bit of extra that connects up to the East Coast Main Line. It's kind of West Coast Main Line. Sorry, everyone. Onto the West Coast Main Line, kind of at Handsacre temporarily. There's a little bit of here. So I've kind of simplified it here. But there you can see. There's phase 1, right? Phase 2A, here we are, the nomenclature already starting. HS2 Phase 2A, stupidly named, extends that beyond the link, which I think it's about here, I think the link is, but extends that up to Crewe. So it extends that up to Crewe up here, allowing a connection with the West Coast Main Line. Very sensible, all good stuff. So that's Phase 2A, and that's been brought forward. And basically, this whole lot is being delivered basically as one. The Phase 2A has already received royal assent, I think. It's kind of happening. So these bits are all guaranteed, definitely happening. Yes, this map does have heritage railways on it, for those who are nerding out massively. Yes, you will spot some heritage railways on here. Actually, I think even the Bala Lake Railway's on here. Look, there's Bala Lake Railway there. Lovely. Anyway, that's phase 2A. Now, the phase 2B is split into two bits, which is the eastern and western leg. It's where this discussion of western and eastern leg come in. So the western leg of phase 2B connects up out of Crewe and then goes up, basically starts facing towards Scotland, but also has this sort of little spur that goes into Manchester. Now, you might think, well, that's a bit stupid. Why doesn't it go through, have a through station in Manchester and keep going north? I'd arguably say, well, that does make some sense. I wish they'd do that and not entrench these problems we have. But the problem is, you also have Liverpool over here, and actually it kind of makes sense for Liverpool also to be wired into this, so, and we'll come to that in a moment. So it kind of makes sense to continue that kind of through in the same way the West Coast Main Line is now. And as you can see, this whole stretch is basically just emulating the West Coast Main Line. For those who don't know, the West Coast Main Line goes from London to Birmingham via Milton Keynes. In fact, it's doing its thing, right? It's up here. There we are. There's Bletchley, right? And then up through here, and then kind of there into there. Lovely. So that's the West Coast Main Line, and then the West Coast Main Line, it continues up, and it pretty much exactly parallels HS2, then goes through, and then still paralleling HS2, and kind of comes around, and then so that's the West Coast Main Line. You can see HS2 Phase 1, Phase 2A, and Phase 2B, the western leg, all basically is a bypass for the West Coast Main Line. It's essentially adding another pair of fast lines for the West Coast Main Line. Bearing in mind, we upgraded the West Coast Main Line to the tune of between 15 and 20 billion pounds about 20 years ago, well, 15 years ago. So that showed how successful that upgrade, that existing network upgrade was. Take note of that, everyone. It's important stuff. So that's what that is. Now, the eastern leg comes off from Birmingham, shoots up to the Towton interchange, East Midlands Hub, which is between Derby and Nottingham here, and then continues upwards. Okay, there's the stupid Sheffield situation, which it should have gone into a station at Meadowhall, but hashtag reasons, local politics, it hasn't now. Bypasses South Yorkshire, heads into Leeds, and also there's another bit that connects up to the East Coast Main Line, just south of Colton Junction. And then continues up through York, and then onwards up to the northeast. So the western leg is for the Scotland trains. The eastern leg is just for the northeast, and that way you kind of split the loadings. You get there's a lot of loading coming from Scotland, also a lot of loading from the northeast. You kind of keep them to themselves by splitting one from Scotland down to kind of that one side. So you get Scotland, the northwest, and yes, Scotland and the northwest coming into Birmingham. Then you have the northeast and Leeds, and then the East Midlands kind of coming down the other side, and you end up with kind of about even loadings on either side, which kind of justifies the kind of the split. That makes good sense. So Yeah, no, I'm deliberately high. Oh, yeah. Do you want me to actually? I'm scribbling rather than cursoring. I'm deliberately not showing the cursor. Maybe it'd be better if I did show the cursor, but I'm scribbling furiously. So we have. I'll make sure to scribble more. Thanks, everyone. Yes, good point. Colton Junction in the bingo. Oh yeah, the bingo's not working, is it? Folks, I'll get the bingo working at some point in the future, soon. So now, what's the point of this? So the point of all this is that at the moment you've got there's the East Coast Main Line coming down here, right? There's the East Coast Main Line, down here, yeah, lovely, and then down here, and then there's the East Coast Main Line, marvelous. You also have the Midland Main Line, which comes, to all intents and purposes, it kind of does all sorts up here, but eventually it kind of comes down here. There it is, coming down through Barbados, and then down through here, and then along here, and then down there. There's the Midland Main Line. There it is. And also we've got the West Coast Main Line. We talked about already. We've got the West Coast Main Line that kind of dithers along here, and then do Warrington, and then kind of down, and then Crewe, and then it comes along here, and then let's just use the Birmingham. Let's ignore the Trent Valley lines for now. Then it does this and this, and then it does this, and then it comes down into here like this. And we must also not forget the cross-country lines that also kind of come up through here, and kind of along here. That's fine. Actually, I drew that bit. Actually, the Midland Main Line actually does that. This is the it's not actually ignore this bit. The scribble up there. That's from Claycross Junction south. It's a right old mess around here because the railways weren't built with any strategic vision whatsoever. And then the cross-country line kind of disappears off here as well. You can see the start. There's this interlacing of lines, and in fact you can see here that we've got some of the major pinch points of all of these regional lines kind of feeding in. Birmingham's a major one. You can see lines feeding in all sorts of directions into Birmingham, major kind of bottleneck here. But also these Midlands is one. You've got these lines coming across here. You've got the lines coming across feeding in. You've also got lots of feeder lines that come down into these kind of into Nottingham and Derby in this direction. Manchester, I mean, good grief, it's like the spokes of a bicycle, all the different kind of pressures and constraints. And likewise, although to a lesser extent, Leeds, again, you've got the major suburban routes coming into Leeds, you've got the Transpennine route, all these different lines coming into and through Leeds that kind of, again, are all bottlenecked up. Now, is my MML not a mix of Great Central North and current MML South? Oh yeah, it's kind of a mixture. Yeah, the GCML sort of what's left of it sort of weaves around up here as well, but it's fine. Yeah, you're right. Actually, that should have gone that left. It's fine. It's just for illustrative purposes. Also, I'm doing it red on green, which is hopeless, I know, but I'm using red to sort of be obvious from the blue. Now, the point of HS2 is to relieve all of these. By HS2 being a fast line, you take all the kind of the long-distance services off these lines, run them along HS2, and what that means is that all these lines currently that have, rubbish services if you want to travel between, local station A and local station B, any of the intermediate stations get a pretty dismal service, even cities like Doncaster. And they can run a much better service by, you get all these services that have to basically get out of the way. You leave huge gaps in the timetable, so the 125 mile an hour non-stop York-London service doesn't catch up with anything else. You get rid of that, put it on HS2, and all that gap can be filled with extra paths. You get more trains, and you can prove this by go and stand on any intermediate station at rush hour, and you'll see loads of trains whiz through without stopping, and very few serve local stations. That's what HS2 is all about. That's why I sent Helen Pitt. Hi, Helen, if you're watching. I'm sure you're not. You've got better things to do with your life. I sent Helen to stand at Winsford, and she got it. She when so many trains whizzed through without stopping, and then there was just one pokey little local train that stopped. It all made sense. So there you go. So that's kind of the point of HS. And actually, Crewe is another big kind of hub. You can see all the HS2 stations, these major stations, make sense. They are these stations that draw in all of this. They are bottlenecks. So these are stations that need major reconstruction or alternatives, taking those long-distance trains that currently sit on platforms, clogging up platforms at the moment. They get new platforms, or indeed they get new stations. And that frees up huge amounts of bottleneck capacity, not just pure line capacity, but also all these bottlenecks that exist getting freed up, so that trains can actually travel kind of through. So I often give the Aberystwyth example. I do it because it's like the furthest away from HS2 you possibly can get. But Aberystwyth trains are impacted by this because they run along this. There's the Cambrian line, and they actually run into Birmingham, and so they have to deal with kind of all the congestion along here that would be alleviated by HS2 services jumping over onto HS2. You know, all these long distance services, Avanti services jumping onto HS2. And then to answer kind of one of the questions that came earlier, that what you then do is really, you should be running kind of all stopping but fast electric 125 mile an hour services on the existing network, but doing it that they all stop, which means they can all bunch up nice and closely together, maximizing capacity. And all stopping 125 mile an hour services fit quite nicely in with freight, non-stop freight, so you end up with a much better kind of timetable synergy. Allows you to massively increase capacity in the existing network. That's what HS2 is all about. So that was a lot of scribbles. Now we've not talked about the new high-speed line across the Pennines, which is sometimes called Northern Powerhouse Rail, NPR. And we mustn't forget Liverpool. This will run, don't worry, I've got more graphics on this and I'll explain this in more detail later, but this runs kind of across the top. So it goes across the top, linking the two, if you like, the two legs of HS2. So it's a critical part of that high-speed segregated picture. Absolutely critical. More on that later, though. So, that was the slide I created to do all the scribbling, and I forgot about it. Anyway, you kind of get the gist, right? You can see this mass of lines, this huge kind of mess of lines that kind of come through all these kind of bottlenecks, and how much HS2 is about relieving those. It's relieving bottlenecks, it's providing line capacity. You can see all the lines that parallel HS2 as well. You can see all of these lines paralleling. HS2 is providing relief for all these. It's providing additional freight capacity on the GNGE because it's freeing up space where the GNGE has to mix in with the East Coast Main Line. These are huge. They're just the benefits. The reason I put this up is because the benefits really do magnify right the way out across all of the lines that see, that kind of level with it. You get, because of Birmingham and Crewe and Manchester's connections down into Wales, Wales sees benefits, there's potential benefits, opportunities for benefits that it simply wouldn't get if you didn't do the massive infrastructure investment of HS2. So that is what it is all about. And if people talk about, well, just upgrade the existing network, no, you can't do that, because firstly, what does that mean? We are upgrading the existing network. And secondly, if you mean upgrade the existing network to achieve the journey time benefits, which are not what HS2 is all about, although there are some serious journey time benefits, particularly, ignore this side, everything from here upwards, does have massive journey time benefits, particularly on the eastern leg. You're talking of you're more than halving the time between Leeds and Birmingham. Massive benefits, and actually I think you're knocking the journey time up by 2/3 between the East Midlands. In fact, between Nottingham and Birmingham, not just the East Midlands hub, but actually the time from the centre of Nottingham through to Birmingham is, halved, if not more, by HS2's eastern leg. So, so that existing, yes, journey time benefits, but actually, if you are trying to get those journey time benefits on the existing network, what that means is, okay, signaling wise, what you're doing on the existing network, total resignaling, in-cab signaling, fine. As we've just discussed, it's the fast trains that wipe out capacity. So if you want more faster trains, that means you have fewer local services, fewer of those useful services that actually get people out of their cars. So if you're going to upgrade the existing network to achieve a shade of what HS2 and NPR will, that means that you're going to end up with a worse railway than we have now. You'll be spending billions and billions of pounds to create a worse railway than we have now. Absolutely catastrophic. So, back to our nomenclature again. So that hopefully is explained phase 2 being the eastern leg. Should we pause for a minute, or should we collect up some questions now? Hello to all the 200 people watching, by the way. Hello. Any questions just now? Let's do that. Let's go big face and take any questions you have, because I've just said some things. Let's let that settle in. So there's lots of this. Sakura is saying, what's the GNGE? That's the Great Northern Great Eastern Joint Line. It's the line that kind of parallels from... actually, let's get the map back up again. Let's get my miniaturized face up and do this and do this. The GNGE is... it's the line that splits off at what is now the Warrington divert. Oh, is it? Wait a minute, let me have a think. Yes, so that's happening there, and then running up and then into and then across here and joining up with the main line here. That's the kind of the GNG. Kind of as this bit is, it's the kind of almost a bypass to the East Coast Main Line that's used by freight extensively, and you particularly this bit here, and then comes in and connects up with Barbados. That's the kind of the route of the GNG. So that's I'm speaking nonsense. That's Warrington. This is Hitchin. That's Hitchin Flyover. That's the first design I worked on. Well, first time I opened the tools. Hitchin down here, then comes up here. Then you've got it rejoins and then splits off the East Coast Main Line here. Hence the Warrington dive under built. So that's Peterborough, and then kind of comes up this way. Lovely stuff. And then rejoins at Doncaster. That's the GNG. Good question. Oh, let's go back to Big Face. keep chucking me this. Where are we? Let's see. More of these questions. What's the GNG? What does an NPR go to Hull? We'll get to that, Matt. Good question. Adam Evans asks, how much cost savings does HS2 bring versus the dumb, just widen existing mainline solution people are sprouting? Well, it's difficult to tell. In terms of cost, it'll be enormously more. It'll just be spread over longer, and they'll get to split it into tinier bits, and they'll be able to obfuscate, not money-wise. Critically, it's the disruption, the time. I don't care about the capital cost, to be honest. We've got bigger fish to fry, like keeping the planet habitable. And in order to do that, we need to be massively shifting people out of their cars and out of the air and onto rail. Much as active travel, people walking and cycling is critical for those short journeys. The majority of emissions come from longer journeys. I wish I got this. I need to get up a slide that I can copy-paste through Rail Naturalist to make that point. Pedro JUK, Pete, if you're watching, can you chuck me that in a DM? Your stats, because Pete is good on that particular statistic. Chuck me that so that I can make a Rail Natter slide for it. Because it's a thing that often gets lost. The two things: the idea that long distance travel is all business people is nonsense. The other thing is the idea that long distance travel isn't the key core part of emissions. HGVs for freight as well is a key part of that. So. But we can look at the disruption in terms of just even look at the East Coast Main Line. The alternatives are, I think Andrew Haynes himself said that you're looking at 30 years of major blockades and disruption on the East Coast Main Line to achieve what HS2 does. It's just not remotely palatable. Rail Focus, Chris, hello. If NPR is cancelled, it'll be interesting to know if the Phase 2B passive provision will be removed also. Yeah, good grief. Matteo, any hope of Manchester and Leeds being through stations with NPR? We'll get to the NPR stuff shortly. Dave asks, didn't the DFT and Senev conclude that the net benefit was actually detrimental to Wales? No, they didn't. That was based on the fact they were considering only the journey time improvements. A lot of the economic modelling you see in relation to HS2, well, all of it actually, just ignores those release capacity benefits I've talked about. They just ignore them. They don't bother to model them. It's in the true tricky pile. Because it's in the too tricky pile, no one includes it, so none of the business case modelling includes and accounts for it. So no. Ignore any kind of cost-benefit analysis of HS2 is just whack. It's a waste of time. Matt Reed is asking, where are we, Matt? You've just disappeared out of my screen. I think a lot of people just know about the journey time benefits for HS2, not the other benefits. Absolutely. Tom asks, why is the BBC still spinning this as a speed increase rather than capacity increase? Because they don't understand it. A few do here and there, some points of light here and there, but generally across the board, people just don't understand it. The Guardian is starting to, the key writers in the Guardian are certainly picking it up. I think the Independent's all over it because of John Stone. There are points of light. It's not that the whole mainstream media doesn't get it. That's not true. But the BBC particularly, given that it has, it does not have enough specialist correspondence, and you have some of the major environmental correspondents don't actively seek not to understand it, and indeed repeat a lot of falsehoods related to it. Yeah, that is frustrating. Stevie and Selby, the first bit you drew is Stevenage to Cambridge to Ely. Yeah, I know, I was stacking that, wasn't I? Where are we going? Dave, if the leaks are true, why build any of the Leeds, Sheffield, or to Nottingham Park, hoping to fill in the future? Yeah, we'll get to that again. Fuzzpot, I see you touched on all 125 mile an hour trains, but stopping every station, so I take it you agree that all British trains should be capable of doing 125 miles an hour, and we should bin the ones that can't. Mixed story. I mean, that's not true. We should cascade all the ones that can't to other lines that can get electrified. Christopher Lloyd Roberts. Pete Johnson say, yep, hang on. Yeah, Pete, chuck it to me in a DM on Twitter. I won't do it now, but I've referenced it. I'll do it for next week. Christopher Lloyd Roberts. Might be a daft question, but as budget concerns seem to be behind a lot of the infrastructure project, what do you think would help prevent cost overruns and restore trust in the future? It's a good question. That is a question which I will answer with capital cost should be a secondary concern to what do we need our transport systems to do, and when do we need them to do it by, and the cost is the thing that has to give to allow that to happen, right? So budget constraints, we're in a unprecedented crisis at the moment, and I'm not talking about the coronavirus pandemic, we're talking about climate change, and we need to be investing, and as I've got a slide for it later, we need to be investing £12 billion a year more on transport to decarbonise, to reach the government's own net zero emissions targets. So, and that's not at the expense of any other spending. All of that is money that you spend, and then you improve the economy as a result. You create a load of good jobs, you put more money in people's pocket, that increases overall tax revenue. happy days. This is, the idea that we need to be limiting investment for any economic or budgetary reason is just false. It doesn't stand to any kind of scrutiny. But it does keep coming back up. And the only way to get cost confidence is to have repeatability, is to do these projects more regularly. Because we deliver one project every bloody 10 years, we have no idea how much these things cost. We're not good at delivering this sort of work because we have no repeatability. We don't do it over and over again. The only way to get good at this stuff is to deliver it regularly, right? To scale it up. Right. Thank you, Pete. George Mayer is saying, so is the Eastern leg actually cancelled now? The news is a bit ambiguous. Is there no chance of it still going ahead? We'll come to that at the end. Good question, though. If I don't answer it, come back. But we'll address that towards the end. Why is the Eastern leg an alternative fort to the Western leg instead of a tricorn hat junction that connects both legs? David Shepherd, I have no idea quite what you're saying. We'll come back to that. Right, okay, let's get on with things. Let's go back to small face and press on with the presentation. So that's all we've gone through this. So we talked about phase 2B, phase 2. Let's talk about Crossrail of the North and Northern Powerhouse Rail. What do these two silly phrases mean? Oh, Crossrail of the North. They're both stupid names. Right, so, and indeed, let's then also talk about what the Transpennine route upgrade is. So, here we go. Here is just an absolutely static map of what people refer to as the North, but is actually the bottom of the North, because the North starts, well, to my mind, the North starts about here, to my mind. So everything from here onwards is the North. Everything south of here is the South. The Aire Valley power stations of Ferrybridge, Drax and Eggborough, I consider those to be the gateway to the North. Other people might disagree, but I grew up north of Aberdeen, so I have a slightly different perspective on what North and South are to people who live in, Derby. But anyway, putting that to one side, I'm just going to say that this is broadly what people refer to as the North, but actually what we're talking about is the Transpennine conurbation, is what I'm going to refer to it as. People say this isn't one big city, but to my mind it is one big urban area with lots of very rural, kind of bleak moorland in between it by magic. But this is actually, could be and should be, an area that functions as one single conurbation, one single multi-city hub. So Josephine pointing out that the North starts upwards of Bristol. Well, yeah, some people in Sicily say that it's just everything on the mainland, right? The Isles of Scilly say that it's just everything in the mainland. Scousers aren't Northerners, crying. Yeah, let's put Northern controversy to one side. This is a map showing showing all of what I put up on the map earlier, but just a bit more zoomed in. And this is the route that. So the pink stuff here, so the blue stuff is HS2, right? That's fairly okay. HS2, as we know, is not the second high-speed line in the UK. Selby Diversion was first, then the Channel Tunnel Rail Link, then HS2. So a bit confusingly named. We're going to call the Selby Diversion HS0. But, and also HS2 is multiple lines, so it's all very confusing and stupid. But ignore the blue for now. We're going to talk about the pink. Now, the pink here is... Actually, I'm going to change my pen colour so I make this a bit more... Let's go with this orange. Just, is that going to be clear? Let's scribble around a bit to see if this is clear. Oh, that's worse. That's worse. Let's go with... Let's go with... Maybe I'll just stick with red, actually. It's not too bad, is it? Right, so we're sticking with red. Now, Transport for the North proposed, kind of vigorously and sensibly proposed, a plan for a new high-speed line connecting from Liverpool over in the west, up here, there's Liverpool, over to kind of Hull in the east, and then kind of also going up northwards towards the northeast as well. And Northern Powerhouse Rail kind of referred to, in a mixture of, Northern Powerhouse, inverted commas, refers to kind of, sort of refers to Manchester, Bradford and Leeds, but sometimes that expands out. It's a very nebulous and silly term that was coined by lots of vested interests and business groups and the local politicians who wanted to do some empire building. So I don't like this term because it's meaningless. It's totally nebulous, and actually it distances local people from what is their infrastructure. This is their infrastructure. No one knows what the hell Northern Powerhouse is, so stop calling it that, right? Sorry, Northern Powerhouse Partnership, that just followed me on Twitter recently, but I don't think you should exist. Well, you can exist, but stop calling the stuff that you create, stop calling your outputs stuff that is totally nebulous. So what I'm going to refer to as the new high-speed line across the Pennines is basically what we've got here in pink. And it's a line, and this I've drawn this based on the latest information as to what the route is, but the route is not publicly available. This is a pretty close approximation of what it'll probably do. Can I make the thickness of the red line a little thicker? I'll scribble to make it a bit thicker. How's that? I'll scribble like this to make it a bit thicker. If you're watching on your mobile, it'll be very thin. I do apologise. So, It's a line that goes from Liverpool. It'll get completely new alignment. So the thick pink line here is new alignment. New alignment that should go across through a hub station at Warrington, tying into the West Coast Main Line. Then it'll dive down, so kind of going this way. It'll dive down to meet with. There'll be a big flying junction with. Actually, I've skipped a bit. There should be a pink bit that does that to allow the link from Liverpool down onto HS2. I've skipped that bit. And actually, there should be a bit. There should be this bit as well to allow the link facing northwards too. So this will be a big old junction, or should be a big old junction, allowing kind of free, fast flow in all sorts of directions. So. They'll then cross that big old junction and then join the line going up to, there's an airport station there that I've skipped off. It'll join the HS2's little spur, go into Manchester, and ideally will be an underground through station that'll then continue on with more dedicated new high-speed line, but that's kind of northern, not HS2, going from Manchester through to the north, I think it's Rochdale in that direction, skipping off to follow the M62 over the top of the Pennines, skipping away from the M62 to then, so kind of broadly following the M62, skipping off northwards to then have a station in Bradford, and this is kind of a later edition. This is you'll see my sketch that I put up on Twitter earlier. Didn't include this bit, but the Bradford bit is pretty much a sure bet now as part of the plans. And then from there it'll continue on, kind of broadly following the Aire Valley lines, I think, into or I don't know whether it'll skip back. So originally I had it kind of following and coming up this way, but actually now I think it'll follow the Aire Valley lines, then coming into Leeds, and then possibly using the old Holbeck Viaduct, or possibly not. It'll come into Leeds onto some kind of into the existing station. HS2 meanwhile creates a T, so HS2 creates a load of new terminal platforms, south-facing ones, which is good because that frees up all the space of the ones that currently sit doing nothing in terminal platforms that could be used for suburban services or some of the Northern Powerhouse rail services. Some of the Trans-Pennine high-speed services. Basically, what the pink lines will do is take the current Trans-Pennine Express services, take all of those off, and then run them on the new line, and then allow the existing line. So that's the existing line that runs kind of this way through Staley Bridge and then up through Huddersfield, and then it goes this way and then comes up this way, doesn't it? That's the current main connection across. That's the Trans-Pennine route, and that's the route that is being upgraded as part of the Trans-Pennine route upgrade, the TRU project, which is kind of starting to happen now. The first physical works for that. Well, there's all sorts of bits going on all over the place for that. So that's the current. That's the current main route. And actually, if you want more discussion on the kind of the Trans-Pennine stuff, go back to the Woodhead episode of Rail Natter where we kind of discuss this. So NPR, if we're going to refer to that stupid acronym, the high-speed Trans-Pennine route will Trans-Pennine. I can understand why people try and shorten it. I kind of like HS3 because this is kind of the third, kind of branding-wise, that's the third high-speed line. But anyway, the Trans-Pennine high-speed line will then it'll then come out of Leeds using an upgraded existing corridor in kind of as it comes out of Leeds, realignment through Neville Hill, which will be getting I think permanently, but I don't know. There are discussions as to what happens with Neville Hill, but anyway, certainly temporarily things will be happening around Neville Hill to allow that new alignment to go in. Then there'll be a new bit to avoid going through Garforth. There'll be a new bit that will connect. Actually, I'm going to get rid of my scribbles. This bit here. There'll be a new bit that will connect off the current Leeds Selby line and then connect that back onto HS2 to use the new high-speed alignment to avoid this kink here. You see the white here. That kink is Garforth, and there's a bit of a bottleneck there in terms of speed and capacity because it's used by quite a lot of local services. So that's good. Diversion is good because it allows all the trains to more stopping trains on that existing line. So from that you'll get the connection. Then it'll run on to HS2, and then HS2 will come up and just south of Colton Junction will join up with the East Coast Main Line and run northwards into York. Meanwhile, also you will get some services which I presume will actually run through Garforth. Those dotted line, you'll get some services running through to Hull on an electrified kind of Hull main line. So the main line going out to Hull will get electrified, and it'll carry some of those services as well. I think the bulk of the services will probably run up to York and then onwards, kind of emulating those Trans-Pennine services. So basically, if you want to know what those services are doing, really it's the Trans-Pennine Express map that represents what those services will do. People are asking, whether Transpennine upgraded route will be electrified, well, to be honest, that's still up in the air. The TRU theoretically was, back when it was announced, in 2012, or God knows when that was, a long time ago, 10 years ago, actually. So, yeah, it was in late 2011, proposed for electrification was indeed the Stalybridge route, which runs this way, through Stalybridge, through Huddersfield, and then up into Leeds. That was supposed to be electrified and should be electrified. And indeed, the line up through that goes up this way through and kind of this way and then over. That's the line that goes through Hebden Bridge and round. The old route, the L&Y route, the Lancashire Yorkshire route, the old road over the Pennines should also be electrified. It has an intensive enough service absolutely to merit electrification. If you go onto the TDNS, the Traction Decarbonisation Network Strategy, that shows you that all of these lines, all of these Transpennine lines, should be electrified. Yes, so, there we go. That's what all of that is. So that is hopefully an explanation of these three terms. Oh, right, I didn't actually talk about Crossrail of the North. So that's Northern Powerhouse Rail. That's just the stupid name for high-speed Transpennine line. Transpennine Route Upgrade is the fairly sensible name for the upgrade of the existing railway. Crossrail of the North is something that was invented by Labour. It's a stupid name. When they say it, they were trying to come up with another gimmick name that isn't Northern Powerhouse Rail, because Northern Powerhouse Rail is George Osborne's. So they came up with this stupid name, Crossrail of the North, which makes no sense, because Crossrail is not about high speed, it's about high density, it's about high frequency services, which, if you like, Crossrail of the North will actually be what you can then do on these existing lines when you get rid of all those Transpennine Express services. All of a sudden, what you get to do is through places like, Slough and Marsden and all these kind of intermediate stations along the line. What's the kind of the various stations that are kind of right the way along the route, dotted along, and the potential to open new ones as well. Murfield, all these intermediate stations can have a high density service. So you turn up at the station and there's a train within 10 minutes, right? That's what we should be aspiring to. And in fairness, that kind of is what Crossrail of the North describes, except that everyone who says Crossrail of the North actually are trying to use a different word to NPR. So can we all agree to stop calling it NPR, stop calling it Crossrail of the North, and refer to the new high-speed line across the Pennines? And you know what the secondary benefit of not using these gimmick terms is? It means government can't worm their way out of delivering it by saying they are building it when actually they're not, right? So it's really important that we don't use stupid gimmicky jargon names, because they enable government to worm their way out of delivering what they should be. It's the same reason I get upset when things are called Metro when they're not. By calling things what they're not, it gives government an excuse to deliver nothing or near nothing. So there's all that jargon. There's one left, though, that we've not talked about. Well, a couple left, actually. There's this key one here, and this is going to start making my point about the East Midlands Hub specifically. But before we go into that, let's go big face again and have a look at the questions. Is this all right, by the way? Is this making some sense? We've got 206 people watching, which might be a record for live viewers, actually. Hello, everyone. Actually, no, maybe Tim got a few more, didn't he, on our first Tim episode? Anyway, right, let's go big face. Oh. We're working my way up through the list. Crikey. Let's see. There we go. Matt Reed is saying, my wife tells me that there's a two-carriage train. There are two-carriage trains that go between Leeds and Manchester. Is that correct? It seems crazy. Yeah, well, I don't know. Yes, there are. And they're replacing the Pacers, and they stop in some of the intermediate service stations. And yes, it is completely doolally. We should have like 8-car trains that come every 10 minutes. That's the level of service version we should have, and very much do not. Let's keep going down. What else have we got? Gareth Williams, can you? Oh yeah. Sorry, Gareth, I tried. Real focus. Was there ever any plan for passive provision for HS3 on HS2 East? HS2 East, so the eastern leg of HS2, has now, or did have, passive provision for, its design was changed in 2016 to incorporate the requirements of the new high-speed line across the Pennines. So sort of yes. Where are we? What's George saying? Someone seconded what George has said, but I don't know what George said. George is saying, I'm colourblind and the red colour choice is very difficult. The orange is better, yellow would probably be the best. Oh, damn, I should have used yellow. I always forget that yellow's there. Sorry, George, it's not good enough. I think I've audio described it sufficiently. Like, my scribbles were kind of... They weren't particularly... I don't think they were particularly annotative. There was more just kind of me emulating what I was talking about. But... I shall go big. I shall, because it's right, and accessibility is important to me. I'm going to go small face, and the one thing that I didn't describe is what the existing route is, and I'm going to draw it in bright yellow. Let's go down here and get the bright yellow up. This should help. Is this clear? I'm not huge. I should do better. I need to do better accessibility with colours. I'm sorry, everyone. So the existing route is is kind of, I'm going to do it in really thick, this is the current main Transpennine route that Transpennine Express use. This is the route here that I'm curling in nice thick yellow. There we are. Comes up here, comes through here, then goes up here like this, and then, is this better, George? Is this all right? And then comes up here. I do take, this is actually important. And then comes up here. So that's currently the main current Transpennine route, and that's the route that's getting upgraded between Manchester and Leeds, because it is a major constraint, and it's a constraint for freight as well. The loading gauge is hopeless, so there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. Matt Reed, is the dotted pink proposed only? No, the dotted lines here are on existing line stuff. So you'll notice actually down here, Sheffield, I've put it in blue to be kind, but actually it's really a bit naff. Is that there's this section here which is just on network, which again, this will be worse. Even with the current proposed HS2, this is worse than if they put the station in Meadowhall, which is what they should have done. They should have put the station here. They should have made HS2 do this and go through Meadowhall, but local politics got in the way. And you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. It kind of worked, and it was progressing. So it was like, it's not perfect. There are loads of things at HS2 that aren't perfect, but these things are always a compromise. You can't have the perfect thing because there are local politics gets in the way, or requirements change. Is that better, George? By the way, is that and Caramel? Sorry about that. It's not really good enough for me to neglect our colourblind friends. Firthy, would that be a new station in Bradford? Yes, it would. Yes. Dave, should Leeds Station be more ambitious as a through station in all directions? No, I don't think so, because you would struggle to have there's nowhere for the railway to kind of go in the other direction, and it kind of makes sense as it is. So what you get at Leeds is you've got the through platforms in this direction like this, and then you'll have, that was rubbish. One minute. So you have the through platforms that are kind of like this. There's some through platforms, and then you've got some others that are kind of like this. Kind of terminal ones as well, like this. Lovely. And then what HS2 will add is it'll add a load of platforms like this. So you'll get a load of terminal platforms like this kind of, and at the moment you get a load of services that sit doing nothing on the through platforms. The Intercity 225s as it used to be, just sat doing nothing, waiting to be turned around for 40 minutes and head back down to London. Now they can sit on their own lines and keep out of the way of all the suburban stuff and the local and the kind of regional stuff that can use the through platforms. So no, I don't think it's fine. I think with the new platforms, that should be okay. Bob's Rail Relics. Could there be Birmingham to Leeds via Manchester using HS2 and NPR if they can do phase 2? Birmingham to Leeds via Manchester. I mean, no, because there's not the capacity on either the existing network or indeed the proposed lines to satisfy the seating requirements. And also, you wouldn't get the journey times that would justify taking services off the East Coast Main Line. So no, a lot of people talk about that as being, it's kind of a compromise. No, it's not a compromise. It's not good enough. It would not work. Right, so I'm going to squish down here. B crossing. Does HS2 go from the South Midlands to Leeds via Sheffield, or is Sheffield a dead end? I think I've answered that now. What about a through station Leeds? Yeah, I think I've answered that now too. George, 100% better with yellow. Can see very clearly now. Thanks. With red, I was having to search around for ages to see where you're drawing. I'm really sorry, George. That's not good enough. Right. Leeds Hauptbahnhof. Yay. No. John Mannion is here. Hi, John. You could have run a route from old HS2 alignment east of Sheffield into the city centre, so both Sheffield and Meadowhall would have had HS2 services. Yeah, there are options. Indeed, yeah. I think in the past, through permanent rail engineering, I've drawn options where you actually have a high speed, a kind of a connection. Actually, wait a minute. You'd upgrade here. You'd do some better high speed segregation. Then you'd kind of come up and link into HS2 like this, and it would provide you with that would essentially then allow you. And I also think I provided a spur kind of connecting here as well. That would allow you, I'm doing a very bad drawing, that would allow you to allow fast trains to run between Sheffield and Manchester, because currently those use the Hope Valley route, which is this one, which is fine. It's no better than Woodhead, which is what this was. It's kind of basically the same, which is not very good. And again, that's supposed to be upgraded. That was supposed to be finished in 2018. It's not even started yet. Supposed to be spending £1 billion on that. They've not spent a penny. It's hopeless. So yeah, that currently that would allow you to do the kind of the connection between Sheffield and Manchester if you kind of built that spur and that spur. And in an ideal world, that would still happen. But I'm not sure what the plans really are for Sheffield, which is why I've not shown them in pink on here. So there we go. Thanks for the questions. Thanks everyone. I hope this is all right for all the new people. I know it's a bit chaotic, and I know you're thinking, why isn't this an edited video that's 15 minutes long? Well, it's because the whole point is it's live. I answer your questions, and if it can't be If it's edited, I wouldn't be able to do it anyway because I don't have the time, because, you know, I have a day job. By the way, my day job, for those who don't know, I am a track design engineer. I kind of do this stuff for a living. I design, and if anyone goes, paid shill, you know, or paid by HS2, I'm not. And also, all the work I do is on the existing network. I have done some design for HS2, but you will struggle to find a single designer in the UK who hasn't. So if you're going, oh, he works for HS2, then I'm afraid you just don't know how the rail industry works, or indeed how design consultancy works. If HS2 doesn't happen, then ostensibly I will have work for life, because there'll be so much existing network stuff to do, and existing network stuff takes longer and also requires more specialist engineers. HS2, you can get away with using highways engineers for a lot of it, whereas on network stuff you can't. You have to use dedicated actual rail engineers, which means it'll take even longer. So Dave asks, why is it that we don't seem to learn the lessons that our peers in, say, Spain, France, Germany, Japan, etc. do? Is there something oddly wrong with the UK? Yes. Next question. So, right, okay. Thanks, everyone. That was good. Let's now talk about the East Midlands Hub. Let's explain what in the heck the East Midlands Hub is. Josephine's saying, is that actually true? You'll struggle to find one. What do you mean? Is that Josephine, ask that question again, because I've forgotten. I kind of in with a bit more text so that I can get what you mean by that. Yeah, I think I know what you're asking, but ask again and I'll answer in more detail, because obviously skills is a good thing. I'd like to talk about a bit more, but for now, let's talk about the East Midlands Hub. Right, talk about what that is. I prefer to call it the Toton Interchange, because it's a bit more explicit. So here we go. Yeah, the East Midlands Hub, aka the Toton Interchange, and I'm going to use some of the slides from a thing I did a while back about the East Midlands. So we've got the yellow text, so the yellow thing, so that should work. Right, so here is HS2 whizzing through. This is the alignment through the East Midlands. Now, oh, right, okay, see, yeah, just, will you struggle to find an engineer who hasn't worked for HS2? Yeah, pretty much. If in terms of permanent way engineers, I think all of us have dabbled in HS2 at some point. You know, that's only going to change. It's only going to become increasingly, absorbent of engineers. There's a shortage of us already. HS2 giving highways engineers jobs. Richard Wellings should be thrilled. Absolutely. Right, anyway, enough of me waffling and wittering. Let's talk about the East Midlands Hub, or the Toton Interchange. Here is Derby, here is Nottingham. Here they are. There's Derby, and there's Nottingham. The East Midlands is a place I have no particular connections to, other than the fact that I work in Derby quite a lot. Down here, work a lot down here, like seriously a lot. And down, actually, it's not so much there. It's the place that I work is here. It's all here, the old Railway Technical Centre. Anyway, I digress. And it's kind of, anyway, I'm waffling horribly. That's my connection to Barbados. But you can see this is the kind of the major conurbation of these Midlands, right? And it's quite spread out. And actually, when you look at it like this with the aerial, you suddenly see why the East Midlands hubs make sense. You could not serve both of these cities once, partly because having two stations would undermine the bet. You know, they would one of these stations is about £1 billion a pop, so that adds a lot extra to capital cost. But you know, I don't care about capital cost. What I do care about is the overall bigger picture, sensible stuff. Having two stations would mean that people are, you know, suddenly you'd be turning HS2 into a suburban service briefly, which is not. You don't want to do that. That's why you don't want lots of intermediate stations. You don't want to be turning it into a suburban service. So that's why, you know, for one reason, that's why the East Midlands Hub makes sense. And what you do is you upgrade all the connecting trains and infrastructure to connect into this. So you end up using this as a connection, and indeed down to Leicester as well. This becomes the hub for the whole of the East Midlands, hence why it's called the East Midlands Hub. I can understand it's not as stupid a name as Northern Powerhouse Rail. And indeed, there was a plan about this, right? There's a plan here. And the plan was, this is many bright colours here. The East Midlands Hub plan was to do several things in several phases. The phase was so that by 2030 there would be kind of a variety of things. The first thing would be oh god, this is the yellow one. I'm gonna have to change it back. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Remember to change it. If I start scribbling in non-red, then actually let's get blue up, because this is there, blue. This is what we need. So, but the phase one stuff was they're going to have, you know, bus connections into kind of these kind of tying in into the hub, but also they'd also develop a bus rapid transit sort of thing, which, you know, I have mixed feelings on. Bus rapid transit is just buses, just call it that. But anyway, so basically there'd be bus upgrades, there'd be expansions of Nottingham trams. So they'd extend the Nottingham tram from Toton Lane Park and Ride, where it is currently, through an innovation campus into the East Midlands Hub. So that would provide a good connection for people, kind of local people into, you know, it would provide the connection on this side of Nottingham. And then there's the potential, you'll see the dashed purple here, we'll get to that in a minute. And then what else? And then rail upgrades was the fact that the creation of this, so the red stuff is the existing network, and essentially what you get, this red is a suburban rail network, is a dedicated East Midlands suburban rail network. And that is, for me, this is Midlands Connect's work. This perfectly sums up what HS2 is about. It's about enabling local transport. It's about enabling a local and regional transport revolution. And this is the perfect example. You're creating, essentially by merit of just shifting a bunch of trains off the network. Yes, there are a few tweaks needed here and there, but just by merit of building the new HS2 line, you get almost for free-ish, in railway terms for free, you end up getting an S-train, S-band network, a proper suburban high-density rail network, connecting, from all the way up to Crewe, Matlock, Mansfield, Lincoln, Grantham, through Nottingham, through Derby, and then from Leicester, and then this is where we get to phase 2, which is a potential for an extension of Nottingham Tram using that bus route into Derby and actually extending Nottingham Tram and it becoming an East Midlands Tram system, which I'm all for. You need both. The tram allows you to connect the different stops. So if you imagine, you've got, here's your heavy rail. You've got 2 stations here. There's your heavy rail. There's heavy rail. But you've got all these places here. These intermediate places. And this is where you've got the tram is what allows you to do tram allow, and it's the same with buses. You increase the catchment of these big kind of the. Can I quickly draw a double arrow? No is the answer. No is the answer. Those look suspicious, a bit sus. Whatever I just drew there. I've tried to draw a double arrow in rapid time anymore. I think this one's probably better, isn't it? Is that right? Or is it the other way around? I can't remember. Anyway, you know what I mean. I'm getting distracted. So S-Train. Yes, indeed. S-Bahn is a fantastic description, Josephine. Really nicely rapid. Suburban Bahn, suburban train. It's designed high densities, high frequencies, long trains that you don't have to worry about when they turn up. They just appear and you get on them and then you get you to where you need to be without you worrying about you don't worry too much about the fact they're a bit slower than like a 125 mile an hour train, but because they're so frequent, then you can rely on them getting you where you need to be in sufficient time. So that's the by 2040 stuff is the expansion then. Also then a connection with East Midlands Airport, so that actually makes East Midlands Airport useful. And before you go, it's connected to an airport, people are still going to fly long distance, and by enabling them to choose to take the train, that's massively beneficial. Luton has really good modal share for not having cars because it's tied into Thameslink, so it's so well connected. Better connected stations. Gatwick again has really good connections by rail, which means that a lot of people don't drive, which is good. By 2045, so only about 5 years later, the plan would then be that you'd end up with this S-train loop kind of coming through the airport and connecting to Derby, providing a Derby connection to East Midlands Airport. That's good. And also, where's the other purpley dots? I can't remember. There's some more purple dots. Is the fact that you'd end up also having Nottingham Tram extension down this direction, kind of down to the airport. So it's expanding. So basically, this huge plan for transport across the East Midlands. I know we've run on already. Sorry, we've already got late, but it's not going to be too long. I think we'll finish about half past. All of this isn't just pie in the sky stuff. This was all bought into by local politicians, by regional politicians. So that's councils, local MPs, local business groups, local transport user groups. This had buy-in right across the board. Local sort of business kind of leaders were buying into this, kind of serious kind of buy-in across the board. I'm going to have a big sip of whiskey. That is very nice. Oh, Legic, everyone. Very nice indeed. And all of this being tied into with HS2. So let's go back to our existing network. It's lovely. So here is a map with lots of dots on it. In fact, before I forget, I'm going to go down here and change this back to yellow. Now all these dots, here they are. Let's connect them up. So first of all, let's chuck HS2 on there. So there's HS2. And you can see we're turning Crewe into the Crewe hub. We've got the East Midlands hub there in orange. Marvellous stuff. There we go. Now, what am I going to draw under there? I'm going to draw that S-train network. In fact, my face is above Lincoln, so I'm going to temporarily get rid of my face. Goodbye, my face. So there we are. There's the S-train network, the actual existing network that's there. kind of connecting in. And you can see, there you are, that looks to me like a very sensible connecting network for the East Midlands. That, and that's what HS2 unlocks, because at the moment you can't have that because of all those kind of those long distance services, the cross country services, the East Midlands railway services, the various others that kind of crisscross along here. You just can't have this at the moment. HS2 allows you to have this. And actually what I've got here is all the journey times in minutes connecting up to East Midlands Hub. And the key ones there, I suppose, are the fact that you are getting, you're getting an hour from Matlock to the East Midlands Hub, which means that you then are reducing, from East Midlands Hub down to London, is that an hour and 20 or something. So that suddenly becomes a much more viable journey, particularly if you've got frequent services to Matlock. Even the connection across the crew hub, yes, I mean, you're not going to go via the East Midland Hub to get to the crew hub, but the point is this provides some of those connections. It gives you an idea of the distances. There are aspirational improvements. Leicester, which is key, you'll find it quicker to go from Leicester and more frequent to go from Leicester up to the East Midlands Hub and then down on HS2 than you would waiting for a train to just go direct, right? And okay, you can choose to get a slightly slower train and go direct, and it might well be cheaper and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the key ones there really is Nottingham and Derby. 12 minutes from Nottingham into the East Midlands Hub, and then you can get to the West Midlands if you so wish to. And that is enabled by this thing here. So there's HS2 whizzing through, and this is just north. This is the trowel curve, just north of Nottingham. And this is a new bit of railway that will be needed to make what will essentially be a kind of this S-Bahn, this S-train connection work. And it'll cost about 150 million. Let's call it 250 million. It end up being slightly more expensive because these things often are. Signalling invariably is a nightmare. That's the trowel curve. The alarm's not confirmed. That's me just sketching it on. That gives you an idea what they're doing. What this would enable, it'd be very tight. What this would enable is, let's go back to our East Midlands Hub. There's the East Midlands Hub. There's the existing network as it stands at the moment. And you can see up here, this here is that curve. This is that curve which we've just described. What it enables is this connection. You get shuttle service. So essentially, what you get is a shuttle running between Derby and Nottingham through the East Midlands Hub. Okay, it's not perfect, and ideally you'd do something more direct and do some more kind of substantial physical work or whatever. But this is a pretty good short to medium term compromise to give you pretty quick. 12 minutes is not bad. 18 minutes also is not bad. Connecting up through to the East Midlands Hub, and then you whiz on your train either northwards or southwards. This is fundamentally good stuff, and it means that the journey time between Nottingham and this gives you the HS2 timing, so that's 27 minutes. So that means that from Nottingham to Leeds goes from whatever it is now, like an intermittent train every few hours that takes like 2 hours or something stupid. Now reduces to it's like an hour and 40 minutes or something horrible, and a train every 2 hours or that, if that, reduces down to about 40 minutes. You end up with the journey time from Nottingham to Birmingham goes from being, whatever it is now, like an hour and a half, down to about half an hour, maybe 35, maybe 40 minutes if you count in a change. But the whole point is that this is a frequent service, you don't have to worry about it. And also HS2 is frequent. And then you've only got 52 minutes to London from the East Midlands Hub, only 52 minutes. So all those journey times, those connections, that means you're getting to London very, very quickly. You don't have to worry about the fact that you've not got these direct services anymore. This means that the existing line can start actually running again. Some of the, Beeston, Attenborough, all the Beeston, Attenborough can start running far more frequent services. This is the key thing. This is the stuff. This is what it's all about. And the key thing, so all of that discussion, all of that cross-party, cross-body, cross-organisational, democracy in action, devolution type stuff gets chucked in the bin if you have no total interchange. And as we're about to talk about, it looks awfully like there ain't going to be any total interchange. So, let's keep going, and then we'll round up questions at the end. So the last little sort of bit of jargon that we've heard all about is what all this hinges on, right? Which is the integrated rail plan. All of this hinges on the integrated rail plan. Now, let's get my miniaturized noggin back up. Hello, I'm up in the corner. The integrated rail plan is something that was announced quite a long time ago as a way of going, we're going to integrate HS2, Northern Powerhouse Rail, I did rabbit ears, and the existing network and make it all work. Kind of tie it in, integrate it all, great. What it wasn't supposed to be, by the way, that was what the NIC's rail needs assessment was supposed to be, and we're about to talk about that in a second. It wasn't supposed to be whatever it turns out to be. Anyway, but this integrated rail plan was the thing that the previous report was supposed to do, and that in turn that was supposed to do a thing the previous report was supposed to do, and round we go. Let's talk about the integrated rail plan. you know, is Department for Transport, and then, you know, their ultimate control, which is Treasury, as you know. And they called upon...
Rail investments can play an important part.
Oh yeah, I forgot this was a video.
Leveling up the UK's economic geography.
Oh, the sound quality is dreadful, isn't it? Anyway, this is just was that the rail needs assessment for the Midlands and the North final report, and this final report, as you'll know because we did a rail natter on it, was rubbish, absolute load of rubbish. It was supposed to describe what was going to. It was supposed to describe what's to be built, and what it actually did was go, right, Treasury want us to provide a series of complicated excuses to not do anything, and indeed that's what it delivered. So, and this was created by the National Infrastructure Commission, which I had some respect for before this report. I no longer have any respect for, and it is a group of Londoners who report to Treasury. Just in case you're wondering, there they are. Sorry, everyone on there, but yeah, these are all people who are based in London and work for Treasury. Hence why they made a series of desperately dismal mistakes, including the fundamental kind of assumption that was kind of in here. Let me find my mouse and make it red again. Let's get red back. The fundamentally erroneous assumption, which is this here, the one-for-one assumption, which broke the whole report. The analysis assumed that one long-distance space equals one new space of commuting capacity, which... where on earth have they got that from? Even HS2, which has the most conservative assumptions on this basis possible, assumes 2 or 3 commuter seats for every 1 seat that is freed up. So it breaks the whole thing, breaks the whole report. This single thing breaks the whole report. The whole report is bobbins as a result of this. And they created 4 different sort of maps here. These 4 different maps. They created some that prioritise long-distance links, plus a bit of a kind of a budget uplift. And they created some that prioritise regional links with some level of budget uplift. And the problem with all of these, of course, is that because of their daft one-for-one assumption, they kind of suggested that these were either or, that you could have either regional or either long-distance. They didn't realise that the two are utterly interlinked. Completely baffling. And yes, if you remember, my quote at the time was that this was a dispiritingly pitiful abandonment of the East Midlands, Merseyside, Yorkshire, and the North East. That was my quote at the time. And, well, let's see how that went, shall we?
Honourable friend is completely right about the power of great infrastructure projects to deliver jobs, and that's why we're getting on both with the eastern leg of HS2 and with Northern Powerhouse Rail. The ambition to do the eastern leg,
Just to point out while he's waffling on, this is what happened after that report was released, and there was an uproar after that report was released. And here we had old straw hair Etonian guy, racist man here, the Prime Minister. We had him coming out with all of these repeated references to, oh yeah, no, we're delivering it all. We're definitely going to deliver it all in full.
Said in the House before remains absolutely unchanged. Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right, and she's right to be militating for the eastern leg of HS2. I can certainly confirm that we are going to develop the eastern leg as well as the whole of the HS2, and he'll be hearing a lot more about what we're going to do with our national infrastructure revolution.
So there you go, and then obviously, you know, we've had all of the totally undemocratic leaks talking about... Yeah, this is the BBC's line. The government is set to scrap the eastern leg of HS2 between the Midlands and Leeds, sources have told the BBC. I'm afraid the BBC are still repeating this 96 billion line about 96 billion of new funding. I have seen no evidence that a penny of that is new money. Not a shred of evidence. Sources said the impact of scrapping the Leeds leg would make journeys longer by 20 minutes. They're trying to... It's always 20 minutes. It's like, well, why do they keep referring to 20 minutes? If they're suggesting it'll only make them longer by 20 minutes, that means they're going to be running fast trains on the existing network, which means they're going to obliterate capacity that's already constrained. And then the thing that makes me the most angry, the government is set to argue the new plans will deliver comparable benefits and more quickly and cheaply. That's bollocks, as we've discussed. The thing that makes me the most angry, incredibly angry, is this. And I wish the BBC hadn't repeated it because it's pathetic. A source told BBC political correspondent Nick Eardley that they would show an enormous amount of common sense. I'm very angry about this. I'll tell you what common sense doesn't replace. Fucking rails. Steel rails. So, yeah. Absolutely baffling line from government. So this is all the leaks. All the kind of the leaks emerging. all this leak, all the leaks, leak. And of course, we don't have the fixed plans. The plans are going to be coming out tomorrow, apparently, but I have a suspicion they might get delayed because government won't have liked this response. They'll have not expected the response to be quite this hostile. But how does this tie into what I was talking about with the NIC? How does this tie into the rail needs assessment that the National Infrastructure Commission created? Well, they created these 4 options, and they go from like these are long distance plus 50%. This is the good to the less good. Well, no, actually, all of these are compromised. This is from the kind of middling to the kind of not great to the what the hell to the this is bad situation. Oh, I covered my own eyeball there. Let me draw another eyeball that you can all see. Guess which one they picked? Because if we're going by what the leaks are, then as I predicted would happen, government has gone with the worst possible option, which is the prioritising regional links plus 25% option. Here it is in big. And what you can see here, this maybe gives us a hint as to what we're expecting to see. We have... So we've dropped. What they've done is they're dropping the hub. The hub's gone. Total interchange gone, which means all of those plans for that S-train network, all of the, by the way, millions of pounds of local council taxpayers and local devolved funding cash, like revenue cash, not capital expenditure, revenue cash of people working hard to develop these plans. Poof. Up in smoke, waste of time, all the energy of politicians working together to actually get regional cross-party agreement across rosette colours, across different organisations, users, unions, business leaders, all that agreement just tossed onto the fire because they're going to use this stupid and useless East Midlands Parkway station down here, which is a nothing useless station. There'll be this little bit of new line, a little spur of new line that'll connect up to it. And then they're going to have, like, inverted commas, major upgrades to the kind of the lines around Nottingham Derby. And then you look the same up here. You've got kind of nominal sort of upgrades to the lines across the Pennines. So a mixture of, like, upgrades and maybe a bit of new line. And then a bit of upgrade up to York. And then nothing. That's it. That's all there is. And that's all you're seeing. The worst possible situation. Just the idea that this delivers anything like what we've just talked about. We've just talked about everything that the opportunities that we get. Don't be fooled that this is going to save any actual meaningful cash. Remember, when we go for a big major project, it's not that there's a big check that gets signed off that says, "Oh, HS2 100 billion, there's the check." This is just limited by how much gets spent a year. We're not going to be spending much more a year, no matter what we've got. All that happens is that there will be spending less a year, and it'll take longer to deliver these sorts of things. We're not actually spending any more or any less. So if we're going for less stuff, if we're being less ambitious, we're not gaining anything. The Treasury's not gaining any extra money to spend on anything. Like this makes no difference to how much money there is to spend on other things at all. Oh. And so as I say, yeah, if you want to kind of this is why I'm using the hashtag rail betrayal. If you want an understanding of what that impact is, what that means is that all of this goes. What you're doing is creating a bypass for the West Coast Main Line. Anything that's all of the regionally useful stuff, basically everything is unlocked by that eastern leg. Without the eastern leg, you don't get the benefits on the Midland Main Line. You don't get the benefits on the East Coast Main Line. What you're doing is massively diminishing all of those pan-national benefits. You're also not getting the benefits for all the freight that is released on this side of the country. A lot of freight comes into this... red on green again. I'm going to do this, red on blue. This side, you can see me scribbling here, hopefully those are... There we are. Over here, a lot of freight originates from this side of the country, thanks to Felixstowe, right? And a lot of that has to work its... And because we trade hugely, more than anywhere else, we trade with Europe, right? So all that stuff comes into that side of the country, a huge amount of freight. HS2 allows us to start transporting a lot more of that on the existing railway network rather than on our motorway network. Without the eastern leg, you don't get that capacity release, you don't get those benefits, and none of those trains that originate over on the east of the country can travel anywhere. They're just going to end up on the road, right? So this is absolutely... this is not just an impact for the East Midlands and the North. This is an impact for the whole country. This diminishes the benefits in Birmingham because cross-country services that go through that could be going to Curzon Street will still have to use New Street. This is diminishing the benefits for Crewe because you're not getting that regional network that we just showed you. This is impacting the whole lot. Manchester's getting huge impacts because all the bottleneck that will remain at Leeds will stay there. It's just, oh my goodness me. This is not just about problems for the East Midlands and Yorkshire. This will hit the whole country. So diminish the benefits for the whole country. It's absolutely catastrophic. And continuing that anger, here's the slide that I always put up to remind us what we need. We need to be spending an extra £12 billion a year on transport alone to reach the government's own net zero targets, right? 12 billion a year. So worrying about an extra 1 or 2 billion for a project cost is just delusional. It's the wool trying to be pulled over our eyes, honestly. So absolutely abolish the Treasury. Fundamentally, we need to abolish the Treasury to make all this work. But short of that, we need to be writing to our MPs, screaming, shouting about it as much as we can on Twitter. For my part, I've been appearing on the news and shouting and screaming at people. All that good stuff. Oh, right. Question time. Let's go back to questions, shall we? Oh, my goodness. So, there we go. What can we do to change the government's mind on HS2? Well, nothing, I'm afraid, really, because we live in a very undemocratic country at this point. Democracy has been eroded substantially by the government's desire to totally reverse its devolution proposals. Other questions. Tim Ballum. Today, he did a Trump. What, literally? Gregors, that sentence doesn't say anything about new funding. It's true, it doesn't. You're right. They've later added, or they've later articles refer to £40 billion of new funding, but again, no evidence, none at all. Where are we? A source who didn't want their name public. Well, it's let's not even talk about the BBC repetition of anonymous government sources. Mike Wooldridge, what are your words for an MP saying HS2 calling it Leeds will actually hinder the levelling up process for the majority of people? I think it's a 4-letter word starting with C, and I probably wouldn't say it on this episode. Fuzzpot says it's the Tories. They say they want to save money, pick the worst plan, and then spend more money than building the good one would have cost. Absolutely. Glenagolt, even blue water stuff comes into Felixstowe, not just North Sea trade. Yeah, it comes right through the channel and comes up to Felixstowe. Absolutely. Gregors, it seems to be a rail plan to assure sustained road construction. Absolutely. Your red freight bubble needs to include Immingham. Yes, very good point. Immingham up in Hull, or kind of sorry, not up in Hull, on the other side from Hull, up in the top end. This is up here. This. So you got Felixstowe, and then up here you've got up here this bit. That was a very straight line, wasn't it? Up here, this horrible red line that I've drawn that hopefully people can see because I'm scribbling it into very thick. That's up into, and Immingham is like kind of all this lot is kind of actually Port of Immingham is up the top end, I think. Yes. Anyway, so and then Felixstowe over here. Actually, which one is Felixstowe? Is it? I can't remember actually. Shoot me. Oh, where are we? So, passive provision. No idea. Well, we don't know until the final plans come out. We don't know the details. This is all speculation because this government is obsessed with leaking and trying to get ahead of the curve by leaking stuff constantly, totally undermining democracy and the proper functioning of government. Matt Reed, would it have been better to bin off the western leg rather than the eastern leg? No, you need the whole lot. You need the whole thing. The whole thing. It's all part of a system. You can't lop bits off of it. It's to be developed as a system. I know you're asking that as a rhetorical question, Matt. Don't worry. Bob's Rail Relics. Did you destroy Mark here? I didn't destroy Mark here. I just said some things that were factual, unlike Mark here on the radio. David Shepherd. Do we know how much domestic flight modal shift to rail will be lost without the Eastern Leg? No, we don't, because again, the government's and HS2's analysis of modal shift is hopeless. I defer to David P on Twitter. There's that legendary thread that he did that explained, just looked at air and explained the extent to which HS2 is under accounting for the carbon benefits of its own line. Wrong county. Felixstowe is much further south than East Anglia. Oh, damn, of course it is. It's down further down. No, much further down in. Of course it is. Oh, everyone, thank you. Of course it is. It's down. It's down here, right? This one. Of course, that's it. Oh, that is it. That's it there. I recognise it. That there. That. And then you've got Immingham, which is up here. There. These two. There's one there. And then there's another one there. Here. There we are. Sorry, yeah, of course it is. Thank you. Let's see. Where are we going? David Netherwood is asking, why isn't the money saved not allowed to be saved by the Treasury? Apologies if you answered before. It's because it's all made up. The money doesn't, Treasury money doesn't exist. It's just numbers changing on a spreadsheet. The reality is none of this is real money. So it's just, you don't save money that's not being created. There's no saving to be found by saving money on one thing and spending it elsewhere. That's not how government finances work. The money is spent. It's created by the fact it's created the moment it gets spent. The money only exists when it goes into someone who can meaningfully spend its pocket. Before that, it doesn't exist. Oh. I've marked Yarmouth with lowest off, thanks David. Yeah, I've stacked it, that's fine. Gareth Williams, if the clowns do drop the eastern leg, is it possible that a future government might put it right? Yeah, this is the only hope we have, is that we're still a little bit of distance away from the physical work starting for this. But once physical works in the ground start, we're way beyond it, because by that point detailed design has happened. We need to be changing this within the next 6 months to make sure that, you know, the designs are not being set in such a way that they compromise the original vision for the line. Detour, oh, you're back. Hello. Waverley Wanderer, what impact will this have on Scotland where the SNP are anti-HS2? The SNP are not anti-HS2. They might say they are, but they're not. In fact, I don't even know if they've said they are. They're not anti-HS2. The Greens are not anti-HS2 up in Scotland. They're all pro-HS2. In fact, the SNP and the Greens have been investigating, although I think they maybe abandoned this because, you know, Boris Johnson. They're investing in infrastructure in England to enable HS2 to be extended up to have full high-speed segregation all the way, or at least partial segregation up to Glasgow. You know, as a mixture to at least at some level alleviate the kind of capacity problems that HS2 will create on the West Coast Main Line. Don't get me wrong, HS2 is going to create problems where it in those dotted lines that you can see on the map now. Kind of northwards from Wigan up towards Scotland, you know, and from Colton Junction north through York, HS2 will create more problems than it. You know, it will create problems, but ostensibly you'll be swapping an existing long distance path for an HS2 path. But there's a bit of rebaselining going on, and a lot of that discussion seems to have forgotten about freight. So, power to Maggie Simpson, who is fighting that back. Matt Reed, do you know how much has been wasted in planning the eastern leg? Oh, billions. You'll be looking at probably the best part of £2 billion spent on design development on the eastern leg and consultations and all sorts of things. As for what money's wasted on the Trans-Pennine high speed line, probably quite a bit less than that, but yeah. Oh, so there we go. Golly, any other questions? We'll save them up until the end, but I'm going to now press on with my preamble. But if you've got any other questions, chuck them in my direction. For now, let's get on with this. So, absolutely abolish the Treasury. That's key. We're back on the podcast, folk. It's working. We've fixed it. Hooray! Audio-only mode is back. So you can catch Rail Natter on all good podcasting platforms. If it's not working, please send me a message on Twitter so that I can work out why it's not working and fix it. But we have a new RSS feed, if that means anything to anyone, via Podbean, to make it easier for me to upload things and generally keep on top of it. So yes, that should be nice for those who follow on, and I think there are about 200 plus people who follow this on Spotify alone. So it does get a decent following in audio only mode somehow by magic. Oh, Patreon. Yeah, come and support me on Patreon if you want more. If you want to kind of make me feel less stressed and guilty for the time that I spend outside of my day job hours doing this sort of thing, then Patreon support really helps with that. And without that, without the Patreon supporters, none of this would happen because it would be too much of my time to justify, and I'd just collapse into a sort of a buttery lump, trying to just catch up on sleep instead of doing this on a Wednesday. But to reward all you good folks, there's merch. There's merch from Masquet. Masquet have done merchandise, which you can find at masquet.co.uk/collection/railnatter. Oh, the Patreon link is patreon.com/Gareth Dennis, by the way. If you don't want to do Patreon, but you do want to chuck me pennies and say a nice thing, or indeed you can chuck me pennies and shout hatred and abuse at me, but I will potentially take it on board if you chuck pennies at me, you know, with the note wrapped around it. You can do that on PayPal, paypal.me/Gareth Dennis. And if you want more of this chat stuff, if you want more of this chat stuff that's going on right now in the chat, I love all of you in the chat, by the way. The chat is so good. Then you can do that on the Discord server, which has had a bit of a rejiggling recently, in fact. We've done some rejiggling to make it a little bit more accessible, I think, a little bit easier for new people. GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord, so come in and do that. What's the next thing I'm going to tell you about? Oh, yeah, this is, thanks very much, Mark, for sharing some of Bessie's Ballast, a very nice piece of artwork of what appears to be the Ribblehead Viaduct, and then the best of the Bessie's Ballast, because obviously it's got the Forth Bridge in it, there, sat inside Is This Mug a Gadget Ban mug, Rail Natter branded mug, which I love very much. I enjoyed this picture very much. Thank you, Mark. This was a bit of a day maker on what was actually a pretty horrible day for a variety of reasons that those of you on Twitter will know. So yes, that's nice. Go and get merch. It's good fun. And if you're a Patreon supporter, you get discount on the masks, definitely. I don't quite know what's going on with the discount on the mugs. I need to speak to Masket about that, but yes, TBC. Over a year ago, I think on the 5th of November, that we started the Archipelago series, which was my kind of cathartic building a railway on a series of tropical islands series, which I have to be honest, escalated somewhat to the point where we have 100 years and how many episodes? Many episodes. The best part of 50 or plus episodes. I don't know. It's a lot of episodes now. We've had 100 years of it. We've had 100 years of the Archipelago series and a year of kind of game series time. It's not being abandoned. I know it's not had an update for a while. It's not being abandoned, I promise. I've got to create this video, which is a recap video, which has escalated a bit and got a bit bigger than I'd planned, but I think it's kind of a bit of fun, and it'll be fun for people who want to access the series, a nice little kind of catch-up for them. So I'm creating this video, and then we'll be back on Besquickleshausen's channel for the first of the episodes that is after this, so the kind of relaunching after the first 100 years. The first episode after that will be on Besquickleshausen's channel, for those of you who know what that means. Anyway, next week, for those of you who don't care about any of that and just want to know about when I'm going to rant my way through the integrated rail plan and demystify the whole thing and understand what is and is not, really pick through what is and is not actually being delivered. Dittori, you're right, it's not tropical, it's Mediterranean. Yes, true, sorry. Episode 89 of Rail Natter, a page turn through the integrated rail plan. If they publish it tomorrow, which theoretically they will be, we will be doing a traditional Rail Natter PDF page turn to go through every single page of it and understand exactly what's being delivered. You'll be looking at it. I'll have had a bit, unlike some of the others where I do it for the first time, this time I'll have had a detailed look through it, because invariably if it is published tomorrow, I'll have to do a Twitter thread on it so that people get a quick feel for it, so journalists can get a quick feel for it and disseminate out, and so that politicians can get an idea of what they should and shouldn't be cheering on or getting militant about. But anyway, that's next week. Episode 89. Good grief, we're getting ever so close to 100 episodes of Rail Natter. Oh, big face. Folks, thank you so much for watching. I hope that was enlightening. Good grief. Yes, I hope that was enlightening. I hope all of you enjoyed that, found it interesting, found it useful. We've got the viewers are dropping like flies now in the post-amble, but that's kind of all right because we've kind of covered the information we need to, right? Lots of questions coming through. Many questions. Let's go through and see if I can answer any of these questions that have appeared. Let's see. Why doesn't NPR HS2 include a dedicated lineup to Teesside and Newcastle? Yeah, agreed. I've talked a bit about this, actually, and you can see some of my proposals for... I would build a new, almost like a Trent Valley, West Coast Mainline bypass around Birmingham. I would be building a new pair of fast lines up the East Coast Mainline, splitting away from the current East Coast Mainline at Northallerton, going through Teesside, probably the station in kind of the old railway land in Thornaby, acting as a hub station for the whole of kind of coastal Teesside, using kind of some of those lines, turning them into S, so that you get an S-train network based around that hub, and then going northwards, connecting back with a lot of new alignment back onto the East Coast Main Line, just kind of south of Newcastle, and coming into Newcastle, providing a new set of mostly new alignment, fast 160 mile an hour alignment, whatever you want to pick, something that matches the specification of the Transpennine high speed line. But a new pair, I think that's necessary. But at the moment, we're battling for the core of the country, so I don't see that getting proposed anytime soon. Tim Ballon points out that scrapping HS2 Phase 2B Eastern Leg saves money in the same way that austerity saves money. Yes, exactly. It doesn't. It will cost the economy sorely in lost productivity. Very true. David Shepherd, if they mothball the Eastern Leg and then bring it back later with Crossrail, how much work would need to be done again? All the designs, because all the survey work would be out of date, so you need to redo a lot of the designs. There'd be new development, new people that you need to consult again. The whole process would start again. It would set everything back. It'll set everything back by a decade. Hugely problematic. HST trains, would a line from Edinburgh to Newcastle be a good idea? I think we kind of answered that a little bit. Jamie Bailey, if the rail industry is so united in favour of HS2, HS3, how can they most effectively use their collective voice? This is a very good question. The trouble is the rail industry isn't speaking with a collective voice because it's been smashed to atoms. Also, the rail industry is not wanting to be too assertive at the moment because the government is chopping it with an axe like there's no tomorrow. It's just told Network Rail to chop 20% of its staff, 8,000 people who are currently being made redundant. The rail industry, for goodness knows why, the rail industry needs to be expanding, not contracting. It needs to double its capacity by 2050, and yet here is government chopping at it, hacking away at the rail industry and reducing. They've even been telling the supply chain that it needs to get smaller. Just absolutely baffling stuff. This is a hostile government to positive change for this country. You know, the rail industry felt safe from this. All the people who said, oh, you can still better to vote for Boris Johnson than Corbyn, you know, oh, you're all fools, because no matter what you think of Corbyn, he would have absolutely been better than Boris Johnson at this point, given the absolute shambles we had through coronavirus, and now, you know, the microcosm of the rail industry. Let's forget the other, let's forget health and justice and all the other departments, and housing, all the other things that government is wrecking. Oh, Matt Reed, yes, I can tweet a picture of the weed drum I've had, sure. In fact, you know what, let's take the picture of that now, shall we? So I don't forget. Yeah. I'll do it with all of you in the background. There, you can have a little, there. Say hi, everyone, wave in the chat. There we are. Lovely. So, Dave says, I feel I should make a 10-minute YouTube video summarising all this. I can't do that. What I have done is do I've done that news article, which is on YouTube. That's probably the closest thing. And I'll do tweet threads and things like that as well. And will I update before Do Not Eat updates? Franklin, who knows? Not buffer stops next week. No, I'm afraid not. We need to go through the IRP. Dave, is much day job likely to happen at your workplace with the IRP? More. I'll have more work, probably. Because if it means more Transpennine stuff, it means much more work. But it's not the right thing for the overall rail industry. Do I have enough hard liquor for next week's episode? No. They might have also buggered up the East Coast mainline north by discarding Leamside option. Leamside's a waste of time. You don't want Leamside, you want a new alignment. It'll cost not much more, given that Leamside is a mess. Lots of questions. Right, okay, there we go. Questions. Do the nation a service order. Thanks, Pete. Very kind of you to say. Episode. David Bum said this episode was a very satisfying spleen venting. Thanks. You're welcome. Right, okay, so... Richard, you asked this before and I ignored you. Right, Richard says, do the Birmingham Leeds train sets become harder to justify the cost of with so little time on high-speed lines? Do we end up with 140-mile trains to save money? That's an episode in and of itself. The shambles of HS2 train procurement deserves its own episode. I couldn't... It's just been a mess. It's been a mess. It was announced... it wasn't announced. You know, Bombardier / Alstom got the... have ostensibly got it, but haven't, but have... But I don't think they should have got it, given that they have still got half their train fleet orders from 3 years ago to deliver. Don't know how to build trains anymore. You know, the physical trains might look nice, but they don't know how to actually make them work. Sorry, everyone there. There's a lot of fantastic people working there, and I'm not saying this is a slight to yourselves, but culturally there are problems at Bombardier that stop any of the software working. They're serious, and that's why one of the major reasons why Crossrail is so delayed. This is probably not actionable. That's my current understanding. How can what do the lawyers tell me to make that not actionable? Anyway, yeah, it's fine. It's Railnet. They can't have damages. Right, enough of me chatting. Everyone, thanks so much. You've all the numbers have dropped away because it's the end of the episode and I'm waffling. You all of you keep me going. The bottle of Ledger, you'll be pleased to know, does not. Thanks for all your kind words on here and on Twitter. It is hard work. It's a pretty dispiriting week. But you lot, your good humour always kind of helps me pull through. I'll see you all next week for possibly even more pain once the reality of this sinks in tomorrow. And yes, I'll be busy on Twitter, I'm sure. And it's a busy working week. Very busy working week, busier than a while. So anyway, right. Thanks, everyone. Take good care of yourselves. Take very good care of yourselves. Cheerio! Cheerio! Bye!